All right, so I'm Andrew Village. I'm a huge Audi fan. Love Audis. My whole family's had Audis going back since early 2000s, so it's really all I know, and it's all I've stuck by. And then, yeah.
I'm Sean Martin. I'm a senior, and I love BMWs.
So my name's Lucas. I'm from the boonies of New Hampshire in the woods. I grew up in high school, always just working on cars. All my friends were mechanics. I was always going to meets and getting into some antics on the street and off the street. And yeah, I've always been a big car guy ever since I first started coming up.
I think there's a difference between car enthusiasts and people with fast cars. I think there's a big difference between people that genuinely care about their cars and want them to look as good as possible and show them off at car shows and things like that. And then there's people that end up getting a fast car and just want to kind of show off and be loud and be fast and drive recklessly. And I think it has damaged the car community as far as the reputation of the community as a whole. I think things like that damage it and make the culture as a whole look bad.
So, my parents had asked me for a couple years in a row, what do you want for your birthday? What do you want for Christmas? And I was like, nothing. I just want money for a car. I just want you guys to help me with the car. All I want is a car. And obviously, I don't come from money, so you couldn't just give me a car in 1 year. So kind of leading up to it on my 18th birthday, I come downstairs and there's 2 little gifts on the counter. I'm with my boy. And the first gift's a little bit bigger, so knowing me, I opened that one first, and it was a unit and radar detector. And I was like, oh, thanks guys, that's super nice. They knew I was into cars, but like I said, at the time I drove a Prius, so I was like, well, what do I really need this for? And I opened the second box, smaller, and it's the Volkswagen key fob. And I just remember standing there, my jaw was at the floor. I'm just looking around between my mom, my dad, my friend who was there, and I'm just waiting for them to tell me it was a prank, and they were just no, it's really yours, God's gonna get it something else, and he really wants you to have it. So that's how I got my first car. It was a 2011 manual TDI with just under 100,000 miles on it. My dad had picked it up at the time. He was working for Volkswagen. He picked it up for a crazy steal, $5,000 or something. It needed brakes and it needed one other thing. It wasn't really major. So we had the service done, and she ran beautifully.
And then one day I just sold my car. I was like, all right, I don't need that anymore. I sold it, and then I kept saving up, and then I think a month later, I bought my E92 M3. And I remember I didn't really talk to people much that summer because I was working so much, and I posted a picture of the car it was in a Chipotle parking lot, and at that point I was driving it home. I stopped to get food and I took a picture of it, and I think I just said unreal. And I think people thought that I had seen one just parked there, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then I think 2 weeks later I posted another picture, and it was the same car because it was mine, and people started reaching out is that your car? And I was like, yeah, I bought my E92 M3. I told you I would get it. And then, yeah, just it was such an unreal feeling buying that car because I wanted it since I was 17 or 18.
I had it listed on Marketplace for a while, and I just wasn't getting the amount that I wanted. I put a lot of time, a lot of money into it, but I knew what it was worth. It was an extremely clean car, low miles, and the service history spoke for itself. So I was really keen on it. I ended up selling it finals week. I think it was right before finals week started, and I had my eyes on this car for probably almost a month now, and I was just hoping it wouldn't sell, and I was in touch with the guy selling it for the longest time, and the time came where the car sold, and I was I'm in negotiation with trying to get this car, and it was stressful because it's finals week, and I'm going home soon, so I'm I hope I can pull some. Yeah, so I had, because he was selling it for his neighbor, so there was a lot of relayed information going back and forth. So finally we struck a deal, I sold the car, and then getting the money, transferring the money to him took a little bit of time, but did it. And then he was like, all right, I'm working, but you can't pick the car up yet because I'm not home. So literally it's the night before I'm going back to New York. You know, I'm like, I gotta get this car. So I pick it up, and he's like, I can't find the second key for it. And you know, we're getting ready to head back up north. So I'm like, shit, man, like what do we do? And he's like, I can mail it for you, but I know it's somewhere around here. I get a call from the next morning. He's like, I got the key, like come pick it up. And you know, so now we're moving stuff back and forth to storage. I tell Sean, I'm like, I gotta go get the key, you know, and I had to drop off whatever was in storage and just head over to him, pick the key up, loaded up the car, you know, drove it home the night before. That was the only few times I drove it. And now I'm about to drive, you know, 7 hours up to Baltimore and hope everything's all good. But, you know, I mean, I was super confident with the work done to it, and that's what one of the biggest features was, everything that was squared away. So, you know, for me, driving back in a new car, I couldn't carry the amount of time it took. I was just ecstatic to finally have a car like this. I love the 4.0, and I just love these style Audis. You know, it's just, in my opinion, it's such a timeless car.
I think it's just the way I like grew up. I grew up doing like puzzles and building things, and I always wanted to like understand how something works. So I guess when it comes to like replacing a part on a car or like modifying a car, like I want to do it myself because I want to get that understanding of how everything works. Like I remember on the 328, the starter went out, and where the starter sits, it sits in the very back of the engine bay, all the way at the bottom, and it's basically inaccessible. And I ended up replacing that myself, and it was just a cool experience, like taking everything apart, understanding how each part works together, and then once you finish it and it works, it's just such a cool feeling. And then with this, it's like, I know I'm gonna have this car forever because I've been chasing after it for so long that like this will sit in my garage for forever. And it's like I just want to understand everything that I can about the car, and also saves me money.
So I don't know if you guys remember back when you guys were young and you went to the arcade and it had like the little driving machines. So I would always play those when I was young, and I thought they were all right. Let's be honest, none of them were really that good, but I was always into gaming. I told you guys I had always built computers when I grew up. And so gaming was always something I had done, and I was never really into car games because, I mean, in truth, no one had really showed me the right games, but the normal arcadey car games were, like the physics were bad, the cars handled crappy, the models were either off or they weren't the real brands for copyright reasons. And so when I got a little older and some of my friends had more money and started getting little sim rigs and stuff, we discovered like real simulators where the physics are pretty on point, the cars are, you know, exact replica models, they have the same horsepower, they have the same engines, the engines have physics, all that stuff. And it lets you experience lots of aspects of, you know, the automotive world that you wouldn't be able to unless you had, you know, an infinite amount of time and money, which, let's be honest, none of us do. So it lets you kind of get a taste of all worlds. You could be rally driving and sliding around on dirt tracks, you could be racing F1 at Spa, you could be driving GT3 cars on Monza. There's nothing that can beat that. So I got myself just an entry-level sim to start. I think it was just the wheel and pedals, like a refurbished deal. And I think the first game I still started playing was Forza, which, to be clear, is not a sim. And it just wasn't feeling right. And so then a couple of my friends showed me Assetto Corsa, which is an older game, but a game that's really receptive to modding. And there's a big community there developing new stuff all the time. And that's when I really started taking the hobby more seriously, because you can get into cars that are the exact replicas of race cars and drive them on exact replicas of the tracks that they drive them on in races. And it's a unique way to experience crazy automotive experiences.
I think takeover culture kind of plays a huge role in that. I mean, if you see, I think that kind of gives us a bad rap. I mean, there's meets that are extremely chill, cordial, you know, nobody's doing anything crazy. and then you have the takeover events, and I'm from New York, so it's for me, if I want to see a takeover, you go towards the city, that area where it's more prone.
So it's kind of sad because I'm not even that old, right? I just turned 21 in August, but even back when I was in high school, like 15, 16 years old and going to meets, car culture on the internet wasn't what it was today. Like meets were posted in like private stories in Facebook group chats. There wasn't really like people posting what was happening at the meet. It was kind of like our little thing. And a bunch of us enthusiasts would gather and just enjoy cars, and maybe when it got late and people cleared out, there'd be a shenanigan or two, but it was nothing crazy. It was just a bunch of people enjoying their hobby and sharing it with each other. And right around like 2019, 2020, and really when COVID hit, and everyone was on their phones on social media, and a lot of YouTubers and stuff were coming up getting like new nice cars. It suddenly became like a clout thing and a status thing, and that's when it all changed, because kids would do anything crazy just to get a view or just to get some eyes on them. So I think that's the biggest factor that's changed the car scene, has been the internet and everyone trying to get a claim to fame just by acting up.